today we are talking about the Ant Hill Kids cult. Roque invited people into his commune in the region known as Sainte-Marie, Quebec, in which he told people they could live a life free of sin and worry. Roque decided to call the group the Ant Hill Kids, as he attributed them all to little children working in an anthill for himself, the queen. 2-year-old Samuel Gilgard had trouble going to the bathroom, or more specifically urinating. Roque, proclaiming that he knew exactly what he was doing, proceeded to take a scalpel and cut open Samuel's, to which Samuel, as you can imagine a 2-year-old would not stop crying. As punishment for this, Roque then ordered a man by the name of Guy Vere to punish Samuel. Guy had trouble understanding things and was not the person who one would ask to discipline a child. And during his punishment of the child for crying, Guy Vere killed the 2-year-old Samuel. As punishment for this, Roque then castrated Guy Vere. Guy Vere then died of his injuries, to which he told the entire cult to tell the police that he was killed by a horse. He began drinking violently and set up rules, such as members could not have sex with each other and even not communicate to each other without Roque's permission. It even got to the point where he started hosting things which he called gladiator tournaments, in which members of the cult had to get into a dirt ring and fight each other until he called forfeit, which left people with several broken bones and noses. It wasn't irregular for Roque to beat a subject, at first with a belt, but then a hammer, and then the blunt side of an axe. If someone decided that they wanted to leave, the standard procedure was to tie them to the ceiling, pluck all of their hairs out of their body before Roque would defecate on them. He had a member prove their worth to the cult by breaking their own legs with a sledgehammer, and he also did things to people such as making them sit on lit stoves, shoot each other in the shoulder, and even cut off the toes of other members to prove their own loyalty. This also didn't just stop with the adults, as the children had their own realm of hell to go through, as whenever a child was acting up, it was not uncommon for them to be nailed to a tree and have rocks thrown at them by the other children. He would get belligerently drunk and then horrifically abuse members of his own people. But to the people living it, this is just a kind and nice man who has his bad moments. And that's normally how cult leaders trick people into continued subjugation. In 1987, one of the women recognized that while she may deserve what's happening to her, or while it may be for the greater good, she doesn't want this to happen to others. So one night during a blizzard, she left her 2-month-old child out in the cold to freeze to death in order to escape the horrors of Roque. Someone came across the body of this 2-month-old child, to which the police began an actual investigation. After the kids left, Roque got much worse. One of the first things he did after the cult left was castrate a male follower by wrapping a rubber band around his genitals, to which he eventually became infected and fell off. He also began doing things such as burning their genitalia with soldering irons and other completely unimaginable torture methods. Solange earlier that day had complained of a sore stomach, to which Roque said that he could help her, to which he laid her on a kitchen table, took off her shirt, punched her in the stomach, and then put a plastic tube in her lower intestine, to which he then induced an enema using oil and molasses. He then cut open her abdomen, pulled out a piece of her intestine, and with his bare hands broke off a piece and just tucked the rest of it back in before stitching her up. He also had members of the cult take a plastic tube, insert it down her throat, and begin breathing into it as a way to inflate her digestive tract. She died in agony the next day. He then said it was his job to resurrect her. So he cut open her abdomen, took out her uterus, drilled a hole into her skull, and then had him, as well as the rest of the men in the cult, commit acts of necrophilia. Obviously, this didn't resurrect her. However, he pulled out one of her ribs and then wore it as a necklace, saying it was as Eve came from the rib of Adam and blah blah blah. One member by the name of Gabriella Lavallee After everything that had happened to her and after seeing what had happened to Solange, she decided to get out of there. In July of 1989, she attempted to make her escape. However, she was caught by Rogue, who then took her inside, pinned her arm to the wall with a hunting knife, and then amputated her arm using a chainsaw. Finally, the nightmare ended on August 16th when Gabriella managed to make an actual escape on her second attempt. She went hitchhiking to a hospital just north of Toronto, in which even then she was apprehensive to report what had happened, saying that her arm had been broken in several places and Rogue took care of her by amputating it. While in jail, he was still able to father 4 more children with women of the cult who came to visit him during conjugal visits. This really shows the effect, or at least long-term trauma, that this abuser had on his victims.